I think this was a bit of a national embarrassment for Esther because she was trotted out here in a fashion that I don't really agree with. I don't know if she was given advice. I don't know who her vocal coach is. This is humiliating. I thought this was humiliating. I don't know why. She's right. Why did people let her do this? Why did people let her sing like that? It's silly. It's so silly.
It's SNHell, a look back at Saturday Night Live with your hosts, Matt, Dee and Keith. Brought to you by Lion's Den Audio Theater. Like and subscribe to Lion's Den Audio Theater for more Lion's Den goodness. And here are your hosts, Keith, Dee, and Matt.
Episode 4 of Saturday Night Live, starring Candice Bergen, originally aired on November 8th, 1975. Welcome to episode 4, Matt and Dee.
Such a pleasure to be back.
Hello.
Pleasure to have you back. I did get a comment from someone who's listened to one of our episodes.
What?
And
That's exciting.
Yeah, they actually rapped my knuckles for saying skit instead of sketch.
Why?
Well, you know, the common thing is that skit is something a kid does around a campfire. I use the words interchangeably. This is one of the few times in 2021 I can say if I offend you with that, I really don't care.
I don't, I do say sketch.
Yeah.
I am aware that I do say sketch because, and you know what? I'm not trying to say that that was me because it wasn't.
No.
You know what? Skit does feel more pedestrian.
So we have Candice Bergen. Now, we all know her as Murphy Brown, but in 1975, they didn't know her as Murphy Brown. Candice Bergen, a Hollywood child, the child of the world's most famous ventriloquist, I would argue, Edgar Bergen. And she grew up with a wooden dummy named Charlie McCarthy, who was kind of her father's favorite child, I've read. He had a nicer bedroom than she did. But that didn't stop old Candy Bergen from really making an impact in the world. She went on to become a model and slowly transitioned into films where she actually showed great chops early on.
I come into this episode already loving Candice Bergen because I loved Murphy Brown. And I also just think Candice Bergen is just such a strikingly beautiful woman. And so, you know, she's an immediate hit for me. I think this must have been a huge get for Saturday Night Live. Candice Bergen feels like, wow, what are you doing here?
Dee, you're not quite as old as Matt and I. Were you familiar with Murphy Brown or Candice Bergen at all?
No, Miss Ma'am was before my time, but when she came on the screen, she was definitely captivating.
The funny thing is I thought the same thing, but this is relatively early in her career. I mean, this is definitely the first quarter of her career.
She's 30 years old here. I looked it up.
Yeah, she gives a vibe of old Hollywood.
This is the biggest audience reaction that we have seen to a host so far on the show.
Yeah.
The audience absolutely lost their minds.
And yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking more about Candice Bergen and this whole episode. I just wanted to make a correction from episode 2. I said that Lorraine Newman was the youngest of the not ready for primetime players. It was actually Dan Aykroyd was the youngest. He was 23 years old at the time.
Aww.
Wow, I would not have guessed that. I mean, he looks young.
Lil baby Dan. I love him.
And Newman was also 23, but slightly older, like a couple months older. Like I said in episode 2, it's hard to look at anyone from the 70s and think they're in their 20s. And the musical guest is Esther Phillips, who had a stellar career, but we'll talk a bit about Esther as the time comes up. In the news at the time, and I only mention it because Bergen did, the Equal Rights Amendment vote had happened in New York only a couple days before. And it was voted down. But it does eventually pass, but just obviously Bergen was a little downtrodden by that not being accepted in a state that's supposed to be as progressive as New York. So
she's a real Jane Fonda.
Yeah, but I think less controversial.
Yeah, Jane was That was next level. You're right.
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah,
a
I
fair
know who
comparison
Candice
to
was.
Candice Bergen at all.
I would know who Candice was. I know who
Yeah.
Jane is.
Yeah.
So the cold opening of this episode, we have Chevy Chase debuting his Gerald Ford impression. This is the first impression of a president, and that becomes quite a staple. What are your thoughts of this opening?
I mean, listen, I'm just a technological little baby from 2021. I had no idea who he was trying to portray. I looked at Matt, I said, "Who's this, a president?" And he said, "Yeah, I think it's," and I don't remember what president he said. Gerald Ford. And then he trips over some chairs and he delivers the opening cold. I gave it a 1 out of 10. I couldn't identify which president it was, and I think that's kind of a problem.
Chevy Chase doesn't look, sound, act like Gerald Ford. This is dumb. I don't know. This is them like trying to figure, okay, we want to do jokes about the president. We have fucking nothing. Put our popular guy out there to maybe figure it out. He doesn't figure it out. Waste of everybody's time.
Yeah, they do. I mean, they do have that little disclaimer saying it's not actually Ford. It's just some guy who thinks he is. But yeah, it's sort of later he does come back as actual Ford with no makeup. So, at this stage of it, there was no attempt to make him look like Gerald Ford compared to today where it's almost like a full latex makeover.
I mean, I got a big problem with that as well. I think I think putting on a fucking mask is shitty acting.
So the monologue. Bergen gives a charming monologue. She's joined by Belushi dressed as a bee, and Chevy comes out and tells her there's a bee sitting on her hand. Chevy hits the bee, which is John Belushi, with a newspaper. Some funny stuff happens. This is the first monologue I thought to resemble a truly contemporary monologue.
Yeah, I get that. The host comes out, they be themselves. Pardon the pun. And then the not ready for primetime players come and interact around them. Comedy ensues. So yeah, while I do think you're absolutely right about that, I also think that they did not know what to do with this serious professional actress.
Yeah, it felt like there was a bit of scrambling. But as always, I like to see the bees. And as this goes on, John Belushi is becoming an absolute favorite of mine. I love him. He is so charming. And every time he is on the screen, like, I never feel like he is not doing what he's supposed to be doing. He is always making me laugh.
I like all the bees, but Belushi more than anyone, the deadpan nature that he has, the serious face he has in the bee costume is just such a nice, for the lack of a better term, juxtaposition.
It is. It gives me real bee vibes. Like if a bee was a human.
My favorite part of it is accidental. The way the fucking antenna just swing and bounce around kills me. It's half of the performance for me is that those fucking antennas, they're just wild. They swing.
So this one works for you guys, the opening monologue, or is it off?
Well,
it works.
Okay. Dee thinks it works. I wouldn't say it works. It doesn't really work for me, no. John Belushi is fine. He's clearly magnetic. When Chevy comes out, there's no chemistry going on here. They don't know what to do with Candice Bergen. That could have been fucking anybody. That could have been Jane Curtin. This has nothing to do with Candice Bergen. There's nothing to do with, an actress of her caliber. There was a lot of opportunity here. And then just pissed it away on their fucking, there's a bee on you. Come on.
Then we go to our first commercial of the night, the Ambassador Training Institute. Announcer Andrew Duncan voiceovers a scene with Dan Aykroyd and Lorraine Newman. And this Ambassador Training Institute provides a home learning course for ambassadors and those interested in international diplomacy. As someone who grew up with all these correspondence schools, like Learn to Draw in 30 Days and stuff all over the television, I absolutely loved this one. I laughed my head off at it.
I thought it was really clever, and I could believe that people actually went through this and ended up in their positions. It's completely realistic to me.
Too real for me, man. This is what happens. It just kind of made me mad because it was just such an obvious illustration of what happens. And with the state of politics as they've been for the last 10 years, let's say, too real Too real. Fuck these people.
This was too real for a few affiliates too, because apparently they actually thought this was a real commercial and cut to their local commercials instead, and this one got cut out of a few affiliates.
No wonder.
Yeah, and that sort of goes to show again. It's like these guys are nailing these commercials because they're fooling technicians in the booths and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Again, they're inventing this universe for us to be in between these sketches.
Our next bit, Garrett Morris goes to see Dan Aykroyd. He wants to see his CIA file. Wasn't much to this one for me. I actually loved the set in this one. It was just papers everywhere. Morris was funny. I thought Aykroyd was funny, but not the best showcase of either of them.
You know what? I could repeat almost my comments for this one. I thought this was too real. This was like such an excruciating look at bureaucracy. Let me tell you a true story right now. Okay? I submit my taxes to the Canadian Revenue Agency, and they say, go log into your account. And I try to log into my account, and they say, you're locked out of your account. Call us. So I call them, and they say, we're too busy. You can't call. Go log into your account.
Yeah, this did feel too real to me. The absolute chaos of the office. Garrett's frustration, like, going in there. Like, at this point, he's guilty. Like, he's confessing to crimes. Like, please, can you find my file? I'm admitting to tax evasion just so that they can find my file. Like, that's how it feels.
That's something I neglected to mention, unfortunately, because I was lost in the realism. The performances in this are fucking awesome. Dan Aykroyd and Garrett Morris gave 5-star performances in this sketch. This is really, really good for me.
I think when this was being, like, at the very beginning of it, when it first comes on, for a few seconds, I had no idea what was going on. It took me a few seconds to understand each character and what they were trying to portray. So maybe that's what was missing for you, because that's what was missing for me. 2 seconds of backstory would have helped.
Yeah, I don't know. You're probably right on that one. Our next Chiron, another great Chiron on the audience, showing the older sister of ex-Mouseketeer Cubby. Now, that was dated even then, for Christ's sake, It
just gave me a little laugh. Anytime you're going to cut to the audience, slap any random text on there, and I'm sure it's going to, like, make me smile. But yeah, when it comes to the topical humor, I didn't get it.
And to be honest, the audience members that are getting shown seem to really be getting a kick out of it most of the time.
Yeah, they do.
So now we get an introduction to a character that sticks around for quite a while, even made some cameos into the 2000s. It's the Jaws 2 land shark. Land shark, known as the cleverest species of them all, tricks a series of women into answering their door, where they meet the land shark. We also have interspersed cuts with John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd playing Brady and Cooper from Jaws 1 as sort of investigators. How'd you feel about this one? I loved it. I mean, I love the land shark skits anyway.
Yeah, home run for me too, man. This is the kind of shit that helped me learn and love Saturday Night Live, to be honest, because Land Shark is the kind of stuff that was on those old Best of SNL reels, those old Best of SNL VHS tapes. Like, this was one of my early exposures to early Saturday Night Live. So it was nostalgic. It's still funny. I get it. I love it. Slam dunk for me.
For me, this was, it was pretty funny. I thought it was silly. If I could use any word to describe it, I would say it's silly. 7 out of 10. We start with Gilda. We go to Lorraine and then the host, so we kind of get to see how each person reacts to it differently. And you think, that they're going to be able to escape it, but they don't. And it's funny, it's cute.
And then, of course, poor Garrett Morris gets it in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite, it's kind of a small detail, but the fact that all the remains were in these little Tupperware or Rubbermaid dishes, that to me was, I enjoyed that. I'm so glad these are here. The land sharks almost have a Monty Python-esque vibe to them, and I am a huge Python fan. But just the sort of ridiculousness of it is what makes it great, I think.
This is one of the, I really do think this is an early highlight. Do you remember this as highlight reel type stuff?
This was, best of, absolutely. And I think even like the commercials advertising the VHS specials and stuff like that. The two of the things I remember, well, three things I remember are the Land Shark, We're the Bees, and Wild and Crazy Guys. So if you know your Saturday Night Live history, that's some good company to be in with.
Yeah, no doubt.
Then we go to Esther Phillips singing What a Difference a Day Makes. It's an old song by Dinah Washington. It's given a complete makeover. I'd like to hear from you guys first on this one.
I need to defer absolutely to Dee, who had reactions to this performance that I would never have anticipated.
Who did Esther dirty like this? Number one, ma'am, she can sing, okay? I am not trying to discredit that fact that she can sing, but there is this thing that she does, not even just at the end of words, but it will be like in the middle of a verse where she's just like, and it feels like she's skipping, like she's literally a skipping CD. And it just continues to happen throughout her whole song. And the longer it goes on, the funnier it gets to me. Who did her dirty? I don't know.
I think she was a Candice Bergen choice. That noise I've been calling the dolphin vibrato.
That is exactly what it is. That is exactly what it is. It is one of the funniest sounds I have heard in my entire life. And the confidence that she delivers it with is unmatched.
This woman's voice is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
She can sing. You're right. She has a beautiful voice. But the noise is coming out of her, not just the dolphin vibrato, but the grunts and the breathing and the, oh my gentle Jesus. Now, there are other people with ridiculous voices, like Aaron Neville, Johnny Mathis, Bob Dylan, Our Lady Peace. They have these weird voices. And I've always wondered, like, say you're a good friend with Bob Dylan. You talk to Bob Dylan all the time. He has a normal voice. You're chit-chatting with him. He says, come to my concert. You go to his concert and you hear him singing like that. To me, it's like that would be jarring. And I think this would be jarring. I know this song. I know the Dinah Washington version, which I really like. But I was fucking laughing at this woman. And she's a legend in many circles.
I'm literally crying. I cannot believe this made it to TV.
Yeah,
that sound is unreal.
Dee's fucking dead over here. Listen, I'm not trying to say that I can't, like, is this my main style of music? No. But I mean, this is a time when I think about this kind of music. I was a big fan of Blue Eyed Soul. So like David Bowie's Young Americans came out in 1975, and that was a year earlier. And he made use of such American talent that is really gonna blow up. He made use of Tina Turner. He made use of Luther Vandross. And then I got this fucking shit on my television on Saturday night. This fucking sucks, man. This sucks. Dirty. This sucks bad.
She had an earlier career, and she was in the midst of a much desired comeback, I think, is the best way to put it.
It feels like there's a point at which, I don't know if it's just black singers, but as a black person, this is something I have noticed. But there are so many ridiculous vocal things that we can do that I think are hilarious, that because we are black, other people will be like, that's a good job, man. That slaps. That's great. And it doesn't. They're just black and you're afraid to say that. And it's really funny. And I wish that we could all appreciate how funny this is and that she does also have the talent. But why can't we just laugh at this? Like, it's so funny to me.
Oh, we can laugh at it. I mean, I don't think it's funny. I just think it sucks. Like, this is fucking just shitty. This is shitty music. This is supposed to be a cool show. I've mentioned this on a previous episode. This is supposed to be a fucking cool show. This isn't cool. This is shit.
I honestly think this is good music interpreted ridiculously. I'm saying this and I'm worrying about saying it, but I just thought this was comical.
It is comical. And the reason you're worried about saying it is because she's black.
Don't worry about saying it.
And as a black person, I'm here to say it's bad. And it's fine to say that it's bad and it's hilarious. And I want to give a shout out to the sax players in the song.
Oh, yeah.
Take seriously. They were awesome.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. It was comically bad. Keith, I think this performance was fucking comically bad. There's a reason that I've never heard of this woman. I listen to music a lot. I really think I'm a good music historian. You know, shit like this obviously passes me by. You know what? Maybe I'm not a good music historian. What do I know? I sell electronics for a living. Don't fucking listen to me. The point is that this was comically bad. And I really think, you know what? I can't put it better than Dee. Somebody did this woman dirty by letting her get out here and do this.
You know, the sad part, well, the odd part is I don't think anyone did. I think this woman had a following, and
so does Sum 41, I guess. But
I mean, this is, you know, it's the dolphin noise. It's just, and maybe, I don't know, just knowing the other version of the song, and I should never do that. That's a terrible thing to do, to compare covers to originals and whatnot.
You're the data master of this show. I would like to make a request of the data master.
Sure.
I would like you to note that I think that this is probably one of the worst musical performances of all time on Saturday Night Live.
Are you suggesting, too, that Esther Phillips might be like a truly amazing satirist who was doing this comically and just nobody caught on until us?
I am.
If only. Man, if only. I would change my life if that was true, man. We should move on because we got to look at this again.
Yeah, we'll visit with Esther again later, but we're all on the same page on this one. So the next one, it's a sketch, but it's also a product placement ad for Polaroid, and it begins with Chevy Chase playing Hamlet, but he has cheat sheets written on the skull. The skull breaks, and that segues into a Polaroid commercial with Candice Bergen dressed as a bee. As far as like actual real life ads go, this was fun. This is a good way to get your product. I was kind of interested in 1970s Polaroids after this.
So Keith, can you clarify, like, was this a legitimate paid advertisement?
This was a legitimate paid ad, and these pop up a bit throughout the show.
Okay, then and you know what? If I may be honest, that changes my perception of it entirely. If this is a legitimate paid advertisement by Polaroid, then I think it's fucking brilliant, because it's, you know, it's not a great sketch, obviously. If that's what they were doing, I really think that's cutting edge. That's awesome. Dee, what do you think? Did you have any concept that this might be an actual Polaroid commercial? I mean, in hindsight, it seems like, oh yeah, Polaroid's cool. Look how I closed the camera. Look at the cool stuff. And yeah, I mean, even my nostalgia glasses was like, oh, I want a Polaroid now. Anyway.
Actually, you know what? I say no, but I knew that this was a sponsored ad by Polaroid because a lot of technology at the time, like if you were to see a commercial for it, it would go in depth and explain for some reason exactly how to use the camera and how it functioned within the commercial. So that was a dead giveaway for me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, these sort of in-show paid spots, they sort of come in and out of vogue. And I always think they usually work. I remember there was a period of time there in the late 90s when Conan started doing ads from the desk. They work for me more so than a regular ad would.
Yeah, you're right.
I can respect it. It shows that they allowed the show to do that with the ad. Like, they didn't just literally play a generic Polaroid commercial. They kind of let them do something with it. And I like that. I can respect that. I'm fine with it.
Our next bit is an ad for long distance. Remember when that was a thing? Oh boy. The less said about this one, the better, I think. It starts with a young man being dressed up in a dress, trying on the dress as his mother makes alterations to it. And then he grows up to call his mother. And the character is gay. And he's gay because it's implied his mother dressed him up like a girl. This one is not acceptable to me.
Do you look like you're itching?
I thought this was an Albert Brooks film without any entrance, like without any introduction
it had that
to
vibe,
it. I thought they were throwing us right into an Albert Brooks film.
It had that vibe. Now, like the look to it, yeah. This one was edited out of a lot of reruns and protested by the gay activist alliance at the time. I don't know. Am I seeing this wrong, or do you guys have sort of the same thought on this one?
As someone who identifies as not straight and definitely spends a lot of time in the gay communities, In a way, I still kind of found this a little bit funny. But overall, yeah, it's definitely something awkward, and I can see how at the time the gay community might have been up in arms, especially anybody who was trans at that time might have been up in arms about it as well. Yeah, I can totally see why they would feel that way, but at the same time, I identify as both of those things, and I think it's funny, so.
Absolutely 100% does not make it to air today. Fucking absurdly offensive and touchy, not funny. I did not like this skit. It just made me uncomfortable, to be honest.
This is the first bit I've seen that I'm surprised even made it to the DVD. So yeah, I'm actually shocked. But I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into it. But this one, I don't know.
I don't think you're reading too much into it, Keith. This was really short-sighted. This is really like this is like something you look back at where like we can say honestly, like it was fucked up that shit used to fly.
Yeah.
I really don't think it's cool that if something like that aired now, there would be such wildness. And this obviously has flown under the radar. I mean, this is just some innocuous sketch that nobody gives a shit about or remembers.
It's just funny to me that it aired at all. That's what's funny to me.
But yeah, I think this is way more fucked up than anything else. Than what was the other one we talked about that maybe shouldn't have gone to air? Or
prior, like Albert Brooks with the children where the kids sitting at the table with the guy.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought this is a horrible fucking taste. I hate this sketch.
That's not the stuff that should stay with you when you watch a comedy show.
To me, it's like funny in the way that this is like how people think gay people happen and how people think trans people happen. Like a mockery of that.
Yeah,
I can see it being funny that way, but I don't think that's how it was intended.
No, it's intended as a fucking shitty, cruel joke. Which and again, I've said it before. I'll say it constantly. Saturday Night Live positions itself as a cool, progressive show. Republicans would have made this fucking skit. This is an embarrassment.
We'll move on to Weekend Update. We get our very first I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not, which I thought until this watch through, and I even haven't seen the other episodes, I actually thought that was there since the beginning, but I noticed that it doesn't come into play until this episode, and I think that's how
I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not?
Yeah.
I've never heard that before, and that was so funny to me, especially at my age. Like, growing up, Chevy Chase was always such a fucking asshole. He was such an asshole. Like, Community, everything that I would see him in, he was such a jerk. So that to me really encompassed him as a human being, and that made me laugh. That being said, I'm worried that I'm always going to dislike this segment. Like, Weekend Update overall, I'm so worried that I'm always going to dislike it, and I really like him, so I don't want to.
You're definitely not. Across the board, pretty much. I thought I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not. First of all, Keith, I always thought he did it too. But when I finally heard it here for the first time, I was like, there it is. Got a good pop out of me. The topical humor of Weekend Update still does not work for me. I think it's still technically production-wise really sloppy. Surprised they don't seem to have it together from a TV production point. A seasoned television production professional. It's a little too sloppy production-wise still for me. It's too topical still for me. Chevy still magnetic for me, but he doesn't have anything to read. Like, the jokes aren't there. He's just right now a good-looking guy doing this kind of sloppy shit.
They haven't found their voice yet. He's coming. It's coming along. But yeah, we're not there yet. This was a forgettable update for me. Except one bit. Vandals breaking into the art gallery and attaching arms to the Venus de Milo.
Yeah, that was good.
That worked.
And I want to be clear that I don't mean my commentary as because it seems kind of scathing. There's good jokes in here. I'm not people are writing good stuff and there's clever like one-liners, but like unfortunately they get lost when you think back about this as a whole. and you just remember that it was just kind of a drag. That's a formula. That's an important formula in comedy that they have to figure out. Don't lose your clever jokes because you dragged something out too long. Then people don't remember it, and people don't want to come back, and people might not want to watch again. There are a lot of lessons to be learned here, IMO, in my opinion.
There is an ad in the middle of this for Try Opening. It's a rerun from episode 1. I know that was an ad that Dee in particular really liked. And then Jane Curtin does an editorial as a congresswoman talking about how bad New York is as Chase mocks her. That fell flat for me. And again, Garrett Morris is the head of the New York School of the Hard of Hearing.
I still laughed at it. I laughed at it again. So it wasn't burned out for me yet. I'm 2 for 2 on Garrett Morris on Weekend Update.
Well, I got to say, Morris goes all in.
Yeah.
That's part of the fun for me.
This Weekend Update didn't really do it for me. It was cool to see Jane Curtin in the Congress women position. I thought that was kind of funny, not for the jokes that were delivered, but just seeing her in that position was funny to me. But yeah, again, the Weekend Updates still aren't hitting for me.
Some of the strength of later Weekend Updates is the guests that they pull in. Sometimes they've actually relied too much on that. But it's good to see that becoming something too. And Jane Curtin does these straight woman bits so well anyway. So our next bit is it's an ad. It's Candice Bergen as Catherine Deneuve resting her head on a Chanel No. 5 bottle, talking about beauty and whatnot. And she lifts her head and the bottle is stuck. This was short. This was funny, I thought, and it was good to hear Bergen doing an impression.
That's fine. It's pleasant enough filler.
6 out of 10, good filler for me.
Yeah, that's probably this is how you do filler, I guess. Filler doesn't have to suck. It just has to kind of keep the ball rolling, and that's what this did, I think. Our next segment is Andy Kaufman. He does his foreign man bit, later known as the Lotka voice. He tells a very oddly timed joke about 2 boys and a girl bringing a cannon to Spain, and then goes into one imitation and deals with the consequences of that. This is quintessential Andy Kaufman. This is how most people saw him first if it wasn't Mighty Mouse. This is different enough from the lip syncs to the record players. Dee, you're discovering Andy. What did you think of this one?
I just love him so much. Normally, like, doing a foreign accent wouldn't be funny to me. I would be like, that's racist. I don't care for this. But somehow he manages to make this so funny and so charming. And then by the end of it, when he's just like, I don't know nothing. Should we stop the tape? I'm like, baby, yes. Like, this is so funny. It is so cute. I think he is the most charming person so far for me on this entire show. I just love him. 10 out of 10, if that wasn't clear.
Yeah, I'm waiting for your 11s out of 10 for Andy. But it's great to see someone discovering Andy. And so not through cute. Jim Carrey either. Matt, where are you sitting on this one?
More in the, somewhere in between. I think it was fine. I really think that, it still doesn't do what the first one did for me.
Sure.
I still, like, at this point, it's a continuation of the same gimmick. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have that freshness for me. So I like it, but I'm not at her level by any means of liking.
And then we have a chyron on some person in the audience, and it says it's nobody worth mentioning.
It's cute, those quick little clips. I don't know. You've probably seen Pop-Up Video.
Yep.
It gives me Pop-Up Video vibes of just this random information I didn't need, but it's good to have anyway.
For sure. Yeah. Our next bit is sort of an out-of-character chat between Candice Bergen and Gilda Radner. And Radner asks Bergen about being pretty and says she feels unattractive and very unfeminine around Bergen. They talk about self-esteem for a bit. They talk a little bit about the Equal Rights Amendment, and Bergen clears up some misconceptions on that. And it's not a sketch. It's just a nice little chat.
Yeah, it's relatable femininity. That's all I'm going to say. Like, if you have ever identified as a female, that you'll probably find this relatable. I don't really think it's funny. I think it's a cute little chat between 2 people that could have happened at a sleepover
Our next bit's an Albert Brooks movie. This one is a collage of mid-season replacements, including Medical Season, The Three of Us, Black Vet, and a few one-off specials that are coming up. This was what it was. It was quicker paced, I think, than a lot of the other Brooks films. It was a different style. I got a couple of chuckles out of a few things.
With the revelation that Albert Brooks is paid by the minute, I barely have interest in watching his fucking programs. My gosh, that made me mad, man. This guy is not worried about comedy. That's really the bottom line here going forward for me. If he's getting paid by the minute, he's not worried about comedy. And you know what? This wasn't funny. It didn't work, sitcom replacements. You know who did this funnier years later? The Simpsons. You know who else could have done this funnier? Anybody. Black Vet? Am I supposed to think Albert Brooks is some fucking comedy genius because he wrote Black Vet? This is shit. And I'm really losing my patience with both Albert Brooks and these short films dragging down the episodes for me. I'm red in the face. Dee, you go ahead.
This short film doesn't belong. Is Albert Brooks white? Is he white?
Of course he is.
He had no business writing Black Vet. That's all I have to say. I didn't think this was funny. I thought Black Vet would have been funny had it been written by a black person, but evidently it isn't. I don't know who approved this. Again, I think Albert would be better suited to have his own show, his own thing going on. It doesn't fit in with this show, and I hope it stops.
No, you're right. Albert Brooks used a stupid black stereotype to get a laugh. It's really distasteful in modern times. I agree.
And I mean, who approved it is the executive.
Lorne Michaels.
Yeah,
Lorne Michaels ultimately approved it, and I'm sure NBC. Sorry, Keith, yeah. I don't mean to cut you off, but I mean this is going to definitely be something that comes up later on, and I can't wait for you and I to discuss it because I feel like oftentimes we'll be on opposite ends of it, and you're my favorite debate guy of all time. I hold Lorne Michaels personally accountable for this short-sighted horse shit.
But did you notice some of the actors?
I didn't.
Odo from Deep Space Nine was in Medical Season. And Lisa Hartman, who went on to have a great career and married Clint Black. The actor Purvis Atkin was he was in a lot of the films from the 70s. He was in The Longest Yard and some blaxploitation films. He was the Black Vet.
Yeah, I don't like these. They're wrong for the show. They're just wrong for the show. They're not winning Albert Brooks any fans, and they're not winning the show any viewers. I wish they would figure this out.
And the next thing we have the Chiron. Person in the audience is Leonard Bernstein's Caterer.
These are stupid. They need to figure out that they shouldn't do them.
So let's go on to episode of Midnight Probe. Candice Bergen hosts two Kiwi trappers, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, who are former Vietnam vets who are now trapping Kiwis in New Zealand.
I didn't really get it. I feel like when I watched this, I was like, I don't get it. I don't really know how to express it other than that. I didn't get it.
Have you ever watched an episode of I don't know if this has happened on Ellen, but Ellen DeGeneres, any one of those daytime talk shows where they bring on these people who usually bring a live animal on with them. Mm-hmm. They had a prop in this. Mm-hmm. But usually you'll get these people that bring on these live animals and they're so neurotic about it. They're so hype. Clearly they've been out in the field with these animals for so long. And that's funny to me. So, at one point, you can hear, I think it was Dan. He starts talking about how he saw thousands of these birds during the night and they were doing these hypnotizing movements. It's just so ridiculous and so funny. Clearly he's lost it to the Kiwi hunt.
Okay, so you get it. This is a clear case where Dee gets
too much time in the bush. Okay, then our next one is Michael O'Donoghue makes a very specific violent/obscene call to Lorraine Newman, who's playing an airplane ticket agent. She does an emote and does her standard sign-off. This was quick. I like Michael O'Donoghue's stuff. I know that this is very taboo perhaps these days, but the specifics of what he wanted to do to her kind of made me laugh. But I know I might be sort of sitting on a minefield there.
No, if you've ever worked at a call center, you will have people call in and describe like these really awful things they want to do to you because of their service, and I think it was just a play on that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I didn't love it. It was this just existed for me. This was pre-break kind of stuff.
Yeah. So we're on to the Muppets now. This is the first time that I got the sense that the audience wasn't into it either. At all.
Well put. Because I noticed that you know what? I thought I noticed that, but I wasn't sure if it was because of the recording or something, or maybe I just didn't hear the laughter as much. Or maybe, because you never know with TV. Are they using canned laughter or does it really matter? But I don't know. It seemed a little off to me, and maybe that's exactly the reason why. I'm just speculating. Dee?
I didn't think it was funny. I think Scrat is the funniest Muppet of them all. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have even smiled.
Yeah, you've been on Screb's team since day one, haven't you?
I have. He's so cute. Like, if they had him on his own, maybe doing jokes about, like, being a stoner or something, that might have been funny.
You're right. There's a lot of missed opportunities, I feel here. But you know what? You can't fault them for that. They're trying to figure out a network television show. And I'm sitting here in 2021. Well, there were so many missed opportunities. My gosh, these people are doing their best. But Dee's right, nevertheless.
And Jerry Nelson does the voice, and he does quite a few voices that you'd be used to as a child growing up with knowing some Muppets and some Sesame Street and stuff like that. Candice Bergen reports from a third world country with a king played by John Belushi. She can't pronounce his name. She calls him some racist names, ruins his clothes, and abuses him. And then at the end, when he gets upset, she announces to the world that it's another third world dictator being a tyrant. I see what they were going for, but this fell really flat for me.
Too real.
It's just real. Typical American journalism.
The one point I did give it is that this is an early look at Murphy Brown.
Yeah, I never thought of that.
The moxie was there, the Murphy moxie. Now, Murphy was very leftist, but sure. Yeah, this was Murphy.
Oh, no, but you're right. Now that I think back at it, when you say that, I'm like, holy shit. Because I loved Murphy Brown. It's kind of stupid that I say that, and I still didn't notice that. I feel a little embarrassed.
Our next sketch is Black Perspectives with Garrett Morris, who talks to Jane Curtin, who has written several books on the Black experience. She writes as a white woman who has the perspective of the people. Jane even uses a black woman on her book jacket. And next week's guest on Black Perspectives is French filmmaker Andre Previn. Dee, would you like to take the floor on this one?
I think this is so funny. If you know who Danielle Bregoli is, or any of the people that have come out in the last few years that are clearly...
Is that Bad Bobby?
Yeah, Bad Baby.
Bad Baby? Is it Baby, not Bob? I thought it was Bobby.
No, it's Baby.
I am so old.
Bad Baby, yeah. Black Perspective. Right now in 2021, we have a lot of white people coming out as transracial that genuinely seem to believe that they are black. And to me, that was this. That's exactly what it is. And it was a joke at the time, but we're living this reality right now. White people really think they are.
You know, you look at like what they used to call the white middle class reformers who decide to speak for people and on behalf of people and line their pockets as they do that. I don't know. I laughed at this so much.
Me too.
Like, I think if they'd write this joke now, at some point they would yell at her and say, but you're a white woman, and ruin the whole joke. The fact that these two were so goddamn serious through this whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was good.
Now, we talked like with Black Vet earlier. Does this sort of make the point that you made about Albert Brooks writing and producing Black Vet?
Yeah, this is white people doing black comedy correctly. Like, they have a black person that is in on the joke, and then they have a white person completely making fun of themselves. That makes sense to me. What was happening in that other film, no, that wasn't the same.
Because in this one, both Curtin and Morris are completely oblivious to what's wrong with what they're doing. I really liked this one.
Me too.
I shouldn't say anything. I didn't know it was Baby. I thought it was a play on Barbie. I thought it was that's because I thought she was like a Barbie.
That's the oldest thing I've ever heard you say.
So the next bit it becomes a bit of a recurring thing in the early days of the show. Pong. It's Al Franken and Tom Davis. They're just talking about life as they play Pong. And this one was about a girlfriend sleeping over Franken's parents' house. This was quick, I thought, and I kind of liked watching the Pong as they were talking. Certainly a lot better than if it was just two dudes sitting on a bench or something like that.
I mean, I guess, but I mean, there were no jokes in this. This was just, oh, look, Pong is a thing. So, oh, it's relatable that people play Pong. This doesn't work for me. Why are you shaking your finger at me, Dee?
That wasn't the joke. Family Guy, will go on to do this joke again later, like a little more in depth. But the joke is that he's like ripping this guy's life apart and getting him to spill all his trauma while he like kicks his ass in this game of Pong. So that's why the other guy's losing.
Yeah, I picked that up because they're like, but they're not fucking with each other enough. It's not, and the points, they go back, like the other guy's scoring too many points for it to be some blowout. It's the joke fails. The sketch fails because I get it that's their premise. I'm going to fuck with you because, I fucked her too or whatever. But it doesn't work because the other guy keeps scoring points and there's not enough distraction on one side or the other. It's like, yeah, Pong is cool. Put a couple of dudes playing Pong on TV and the kids will like it.
It definitely gave like the crew a little break because all they needed was the cameraman and the Pong machine, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And our last segment is the return of Esther Phillips again. This time she sings I Could Stand a Little Rain. Still odd, still a bit of the dolphin vibrato, but it's definitely less odd than the first song.
No, they did my lady dirty. They did her dirty. They shouldn't have let her come on here and sing like this. I can't believe nobody told her about the vibrato that she's doing here, that it was inappropriate.
You're right. It's comically bad.
It's comically
it's
bad.
Embarrassing.
And I kind of does she know? I don't know if she knows that there's comedic value to it because that would make sense, but I get the feeling that she doesn't because she looks dead serious.
She had legions of fans that didn't see this comic side that we're seeing.
No, they're lying. I don't believe it. I do not believe it. I believe that the fans were there and they were behaving in the way that fans would behave, but I do not believe deep down in their black little souls, in their black little bodies, that they were vibing with this, because anybody I know that is black would laugh their asses off watching this.
But I also think Johnny Mathis and Dave Matthews. Dave Matthews has a ridiculous voice.
You can have a ridiculous voice, but this isn't that. She will finish singing a word, and then she will just do the dolphin noise. It's not included in the word. It's an entire separate behavior.
All right, and so we're at the end of the show. The cast comes out and joins Candice Bergen to say goodbye. How about that?
Loved it. Oh, man. That really, when I saw that, I felt like we were getting into it. I really made me tingle. Yeah. I loved it.
They gave her roses. It was so sweet.
Yeah.
Definitely. And I mean, she did a great job. She was, like I mentioned earlier, that I felt like they didn't really know what to do with her as an actress. Certainly maybe an actress of her caliber or whatever. But that obviously didn't translate to their affection for her.
Candice Bergen will be back many times. This is, for better or for worse, Esther Phillips' only appearance, and Esther died in 1984. She was quite young, 48, I think.
Esther. Yeah. Oh my God. I hope that she had some good days after this, because this was not one of them.
There were some demons there. This was the lowest rated episode of the first season. It was actually, I think, partially preempted because a movie ran late, or some sort of game ran late or something. So this one didn't air for several minutes later than it was supposed to, and people missed it. This is the last appearance of Andrew Duncan, who was the announcer in the Ambassador Training Institute commercial. This commercial will air a lot over the years, so his voice stays, though he doesn't come back again. Let's get into our awards here for episode 4 of Saturday Night Live. And we're going to start with rating the music.
3 out of 10. I'm so sorry, baby. Like, Esther, I know that you didn't have many days after this, but this wasn't your big moment. You made me laugh. I saw potential in your voice, but I have to rate the music 3 out of 10.
I'm going to have to agree with Dee here for the most part and really say that I think this was a bit of a national embarrassment for Esther because she was trotted out here in a fashion that I don't really agree with. I don't know if she was given advice. I don't know who her vocal coach is. This is humiliating. I thought this was humiliating. I don't know why. She's right. Why did people let her do this? Why did people let her sing like that? It's silly. It's so silly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed the music. The woman could obviously sing, but it was the extras that made me giggle. I didn't get it, and I'm kind of glad I don't have to see her again because it's not the effect she was going for. I'm less inclined to believe that she was trotted out like post-stroke Groucho Marx,
cheerfully withdrawn
to wander the stage and stuff like that.
Trotted out.
I think this woman had some awareness of what she was doing. She knew what she was doing.
She knew what she was doing.
She knew.
And people liked it. It's just
when she knows.
Like, yeah, she knew what she was doing, and people liked it. Her musicians were great.
The sax players were so good.
But yeah, this was
took me right out of reality.
It really did. And I know people liked her. I don't know.
The way you said that, and I know people liked her.
Somebody out there liked her. She did her thing, I guess. I can't believe I skipped it, but let's rate the host.
Oh, 7 out of 10.
I would give Candice Bergen. I really do not think she had a lot to work with, to be honest. She was game for whatever she was given, and I think she carried herself remarkably. I would give her a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I thought she was great. I thought she was the best so far. We're 4 eps in, and she was the best full-on host I thought we had yet. What is the worst bit of the night?
Albert Brooks' film ruins the flow of the show, the pacing, the humor. This is like he's really fucking up Saturday night.
It was definitely Albert Brooks for me. It took me out of the episode, was not that funny, and felt really slow and misplaced.
Yeah, worst of the night for me, it's still the Muppets. I don't know Albert Brooks's work as well as I know the Muppets, and they're just misfiring. It's such a letdown to me as someone who grew up loving the Muppets so much.
They paid for those dope-ass puppets, I guess. They gotta try to make use of them.
This one was written by Rob Reiner and Carl Gottlieb. Rob Reiner wrote this Muppets sketch.
It's just so wild to me to have such cool Muppets and not do something more with them.
Is that kind of lack of logic that you will experience as you travel through the various levels of SNHell?
SNHell, that's right. So the sketch of the night.
For me, it was Andy Kaufman. I thought this was so funny. I thought it was so cute. It might have went on for a little bit long, but again, I think I already said that the longer you give him, for me, the funnier the joke gets. 10 out of 10 for Andy Kaufman. I love that man.
My favorite part of the night might be a little surprising, I guess, at this stage. But because I didn't really say anything about it. But I thought the coolest part of the night, it wasn't the funniest. I didn't laugh. But I thought the best part of this episode was Candice Bergen talking to Gilda Radner. I thought it was cool. I thought it was real. I thought it was really SNL-y. And I thought the message was positive. I really felt good about it. I thought it was awesome. I was like, this is fucking good TV right here.
For me, the bit of the night, this was hard, man. This was the first one that was really tricky because I liked Kaufman and I like black perspectives, but I ultimately went with Landshark, Jaws 2. Everything for me was there. It was a well done sketch, some good stuff, and the nostalgia factor.
That was definitely what made me laugh the most, for sure. I think one of my choice was based on, because sometimes I feel like Saturday Night Live it's not necessarily just always a ha-ha show. And it can also be very politically relevant, politically charged, and it's very much just in the bloodstream of social relevance. I really think while Landshark was funnier and made me laugh, my reason for picking Gilda and Candice was like, this was some fucking this. I really thought it was landmark television, to be honest.
Yeah.
I thought those two women just sitting there talking about issues like that, and it really seemed, there was definitely a couple of moments where it was really off the cuff. It was awesome that they got to do that. I think this was fucking brilliant. The more I think about it, the more I realize that this was a brilliant sketch. This was a far and away the best thing that happened in this episode for me. I really think they did an important message, and it was really intelligent how they knew who was talking to who. I don't know who wrote this, but fucking home run for me.
The star of the night for you guys, the most valuable, not ready for primetime player.
Gilda Radner, really, she did something that I really don't experience much from SNL. Gilda Radner made me actually feel something. I felt like I knew her. There was something so rawly honest about it. It spoke to me, and I think it was such a triumphant home run that I don't even acknowledge the rest of the not ready for prime time players in this episode. When I see something like that, it was too real. It was raw and honest, and and you know what? Even if it wasn't raw and honest, if somebody in the internet tells me tomorrow, that was all written by fucking Chevy Chase, I don't give a shit. It felt good, and that's a good message for young women to hear on television.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with that, especially at the end when everybody came out and gave her roses. That made me so happy, and it kind of tied the whole episode together and really showed what she did for this episode.
After your very deep and well-analyzed answers, I'm going to say my favorite was Chevy Chase because he was funny. Chevy's the front and center guy, but his contributions to this episode, Landshark, Weekend Update is getting there. Gerald Ford at the beginning. I just thought this was, and in his interactions with Candice Bergen, I just thought Chevy was in fine form this time around.
He sure was, and as I've mentioned, Keith, it's really obvious to me that this guy is the star. And even, Belushi has had his moments. He had that Joe Cocker that was one of your favorite moments. Looking back, because when we were coming into this whole project, I knew just from knowing like SNL history stuff. So just based on SNL history only, I was like, oh, SNL history tells me Chevy Chase was the star of season 1. So I go in there with almost that stereotype. But that was, I heard that years ago. When I watch it now, I'm not thinking about that. But yeah. Holy shit, do I ever get it? Like, I can see why it was just true. Why media at the time, why the magazines, why the critics, they definitely would have thought, yep, Chevy Chase. Yeah, John Belushi, he's next. But Chevy Chase first. And shit, there's a reason, I guess. He says live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Some closing thoughts on the overall episode here. To me, this was the first real episode of Saturday Night Live. There's a lot of stuff on it that would never appear on TV today, or it would be a fight to get it on TV, or once it was on TV, somebody would take great umbrage with that. I thought Bergen was great. She fit in like a glove. We got a lot more from the cast this time. Chase was starting to establish a bunch of newer things. Like I said, things are falling into place. I'm starting to see things forming, like on-screen duos starting to form. Chemistry is being worked out. And people are starting to fill their spots. There's certainly still some awkwardness and some growing pains to go through. But it's time to break the contract with Albert Brooks, and it's time to break the contract with the Muppets. I gave this episode a 7 out of 10.
I'm giving this episode a 6.5 out of 10. I don't know what it was that was missing for me. Maybe it's like the energy that was brought to me in the past couple of episodes by the musical performances, and then they gave me Esther. I'm gonna give it a 6.5 out of 10.
I will rate this episode a 5 out of 10. I think Candice Bergen is an excellent host. I think they had no idea what to do with her. I think they gave us monumental late 70s television for a few minutes. But otherwise, it was just the usual SNL shit of them not really knowing what they're doing yet and just filling a lot of time and not paying attention to the people that are working for them. Like, you'd have to be blind to see that Dan Aykroyd is not funny and that he should be on TV. Get your shit together. You don't got it together. Figure it out.
Cool. So that's a 7 from me, a 5 from Matt, and a 6.5 from Dee. And the fine folks at IMDb rated this one 7.1. So we're not too far off.
You know, based on the exchange rate, I think we're matching. That matches our exchange rate.
Yeah.
I think we agree. I think based on how our ratings are going, we're on pace with IMDb. So I would consider that a match.
Since we recorded the first and second episodes, I've actually found the 50 greatest SNL sketches of all time. The Rolling Stone list. It's for some people will debate the list. Anybody's going to debate any list, but I find that Rolling Stone, their list does a good job of spanning the whole run of the show and not being super heavy in any particular eras. So I thought it was a good list to use. And on episode 1, one of the skits made the top 50 of all time. The courtroom sketch. Do you remember the courtroom sketch that none of us liked?
Yeah. Dumb.
Well, yeah, let me give you the number and then I'll hear what you have to say. That actually landed at number 38 on the top 50 SNL sketches of all time.
Not only will I not agree with that assessment, but I mean, I must go on record here. I guess it's important to me if this is in a public broadcast. I think Rolling Stone is a piece of trash publication that has no merit at all. I think their rankings are without value.
Sorry, I can find another list if this one's not.
No, Keith. Okay. No, I did not mean it like that. Please don't, because we're doing the IMDb's. You're giving us the IMDb's. So I think Rolling Stone, as much as I fucking hate it, culturally relevant, probably still, it's still around. This is just my personal opinion. I don't think you should at all abandon it just because of my hostility toward it.
No, okay, because they also have, they've also done a top 140 cast members of all time.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
Like, I agree with their top 20, but I do not agree with the order. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I gotcha.
Yeah, and I do know Rolling Stone does have a history of redoing things to fit popularity.
And sell magazines.
Popularity.
You want to sell magazines, of course.
Yeah.
But that just means I don't take it seriously. Yeah. I guess is all. That's ultimately what I'm trying to say.
Whereas Time would be like, here's the list, fucking live with it, Yeah. So, that's it for Candice Bergen and Esther Phillips. Thanks very much again, Matt and Dee. It was great talking to you again about SNL from 46 years ago.
It's been a sweet, sweet pleasure.
I would have done nothing else with my night. This was the best.
Awesome possum. Thanks very much, guys. Take care. And there we have it, folks. It is episode 4 in the can. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back soon, or perhaps the video's already back, depending on when you're listening to this, with episode 5 featuring Robert Klein, Loudon Wainwright III, and ABBA. We'll see you soon on some level of SNHell.